Yes, people, it's Lokiman07 back with another YouTube video, a short YouTube video. Okay, look, I'm gonna just get this out real quick. Okay, right, what is going on at Square Enix HQ? Okay, I got a little theory. Okay, bear with me. If you look at the Square Enix building, it's a beautiful building, looks professional. Okay. But if you go around the corner, right, it's attached to a McDonald's. Okay, and what my theory is that the teams at Square Enix have drug problems. Okay, they go into their cars, little groups of men, puff on the finest of the herb, right, get the munchies, go sit in that McDonald's and speak about Final Fantasy all day like old men. Okay, clinging to the past. Right. Not only do they do that, but they think of all sorts of weird ideas. But let's get into this, right? Because this is insane, right? The Final Fantasy name, at this point, right? It's like a waning currency, right? It's been inflated to death. It's you know, it's overexposed and it's not really worth as much as it used to be, is it? Right? Because there are so many Final Fantasy games. Let's check this out, right? You got Final Fantasy 7 Remake that finally came out, but when it came out, it wasn't even a full game. So we're still waiting to play Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Well, finish the game. It's going to be a few games, allegedly. They don't know how many games it is, which is like they've got to put down the green, bro. Like, check this out. So we don't know how many games there is. Look, let me give Final Fantasy 7 Remake its roses though, real quick. Amazing game. Don't get it twisted. The battle system, everything, the world, everything was just top notch. Okay, let's not get it twisted. There's some writing problems, okay, where it's going, this multiversal time trip rubbish. Okay, some people think that's cool. I don't think it's that cool anyway. But we'll see, because the first game was pretty good, but it leaned heavily on the original. Anyway, let's continue. Let's not get into that. Then you got, okay, so we're still waiting for Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Then we've got Final Fantasy Origins. It's got some long name. Forgive me, okay? I'm not that interested. But, you know, we've got Final Fantasy Origins. It's like a Demon Souls type game. Woo! We got Final Fantasy The First Soldier, which looks terrible. Put that in the bin with that Avengers game they made. Okay, it's a mobile game as well. Come on, man. All right. Then you got all sorts of things. Like, after Final Fantasy 7 Remake dropped, they dropped a trailer for Final Fantasy 16 as well. Where's that? Right. And amongst all that, in between all of this, there has been rumors about Final Fantasy X-3. Developers have spoken about Final Fantasy X-3, right? Not only that, Nvidia leaked some titles as well. Final Fantasy IX Remake, Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster. So obviously, right, the fan base, right, they gotta get excited. Of course, it's exciting news. Oh my god, Final Fantasy IX Remaster, I mean Remake. Like, Final Fantasy Tactics, right, I say that Final Fantasy 7 is one of my favorite games of all time. So is Final Fantasy Tactics like a top 5 games ever made. Proof, right, that you don't need high fidelity graphics to make a 10 out of 10 game. That game still stands today, as far as I'm concerned. Still one of the best games ever made, one of the best stories ever told, right? And so let's get that clear. So I will play that in a heartbeat, but they're oversaturating the market with these Final Fantasy games, and we'll probably get the Final Fantasy Tactics remaster because it doesn't take much effort. But trust me, when are we gonna get Final Fantasy? When you're gonna get Final Fantasy X free? When you're gonna get Final Fantasy 9 remake? When are you gonna get a complete Final Fantasy 7? Yo, where's Final Fantasy 16? Okay, where you at? And I'll be honest, you don't have a party in that game. The main character looks like mod, right? Like he's about as creative as a mod sculpting of just main character. Like there's something off, but it does look okay. But all this, I can't, bro. Like this is ridiculous. Like this is ridiculous. Is anybody still excited for Final Fantasy? Really? Like what is happening? What they're doing to this game franchise? Okay, why is Guardians of the Galaxy everywhere? Like nobody cares. It's not. Look. When the Avengers game that Square Enix made was announced, I made a video straight away saying, yo, that looks terrible. Like that's ridiculous. I didn't do that for Guardians, but I'm just gonna say it here now, right? I was right about the Avengers game. I'm going to be right about this. That game looks like it's going to be low to mid-tier adventure game with annoying voiceovers. Okay, you heard it here first. It is not going to be great. Alright, so just stop with the Disney stuff, right, and concentrate on one Final Fantasy game at a time. Get it done, get games out, and stop being silly with this Final Fantasy 10-3, Final Fantasy 9 remaster. Go make your Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 16 and stop with the faff. Okay, right, enough's enough. Stop oversaturating. Okay, I'm done. Right.